Woo! We are back. We are back. We are back. What's up? What's up, Hair Savant? Hello, hello, everybody. We are back in the chat. Um, that was just absolutely phenomenal. I hope you guys coming on back through. So we are 1 year into the documentary to the date, and I'm still excited. It was absolutely phenomenal to see, everybody come through in the chat and show us some support. Um, Me being a cosmetologist, this was no small feat. And Cheryl, again, I just can't thank you for giving me that good old fashioned swift kick in the butt to say we can do it. Hey guys, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I made two links because I didn't want people to think it was still showing and they come through like, where's the movie? Where's the movie? So I decided to make two links, but I'm thinking maybe we should have just stayed in that chat. But anywho, we're here now, and we're going to have a wonderful interview. Imani, can you just share with everybody a little bit about who you are? And we're just so honored that you're going to be interviewing Cheryl and I. And again, this is The Narrative, and this is our post show talk back interview with the beautiful Miss Imani Capri. So everybody just come on in. I still have my Ritz crackers and and every good thing. I got my wine. I'm
Yes.
still cheerful.
Cheers.
Cheers
Cheers.
to Dr. Morrow. Here we go. Cheers, cheers. All
Cheers.
right, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about who you are and all this wonderful, cool stuff.
Sure. Well, first of all, congratulations to both of you. And thank you for the invitation to join you on this auspicious occasion and celebration. I am Imani Capri. I go by the moniker of the number one energy elevation coach. And basically, what that means, I help people transform their relationship with fear, stagnation, and stress into deeper levels of courage, healing, and transformation. And I do that in a variety of different ways as a speaker, motivational speaker, host of the international award winning radio show and podcast, Conversations and Courage with the Girl, which you all have been guest on. And I'm also a certified Reiki practitioner and two systems of Reiki meditation coach. And I do hold a public office with the Democratic Party here in Cuyahoga County. So
I didn't know that.
I do, but all those things are ultimately about helping people transform their relationship with fear, stagnation, and stress into deeper levels of courage, healing, resilience, and transformation. So, yes, thank you.
All
That's
right. Okay.
published author too. I forgot about that.
Oh, I was
International
just, I was just about to say.
best-selling author
Yeah,
also.
all right, all
Yeah,
right, bestseller. Okay, okay,
yeah.
all right. So, we're going to hop into the interview. Are you ready to get things started, Cheryl? Any
I am.
comments? Any comments or anything?
Not at the moment. I want to just also say happy anniversary to us, and just thank you, Ladosha, for being such a good sport, traveling all the way here. That is steadfastness and
Well,
and quite the obedience to the higher
Mm.
calling. Most of us are not obedient. Some of us want to place our egos in front, but sometimes the ego is quite weak because it doesn't like the unknown. And so you
Mhm.
put one foot in front of the other and you trusted the process, your own process and vision. And thank you for that.
well, I appreciate it. And again, I can't thank the family, the Rev Air family. They
Absolutely.
believed in the dream. They was behind me. They've always been behind my career 100%. And that's a concern. And hopefully some of this will come up. You talk about these companies out here who don't do anything for cosmetologists. And Rev Air is one of those companies. They're really, really trying to understand both the cosmetologist and the consumer. So Scott Thomason, Kim Carrasco, Teresa, I mean, everybody, Crystal, just Mika. So everybody from the Rev Air family, I appreciate you guys so very much.
Mhm. Awesome. You ready? You ready to?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. I'm in my interview hat now. So I want to start off. If everybody's on the chat, let's hold up our glasses
Oh
to
man.
celebrate or
I think I
whatever.
got a glass emoji
What?
I can put there.
Yeah, you put your emojis in the chat. Whatever it is, this is a celebration, right? So I'm gonna just take just a little sip.
Oh
I'm
man.
gonna sit with you. Uh-huh.
Cheers to both of
Mm-hmm.
you. Celebration. Before I get into the actual, kind of questions to kick off our interview or conversation, I just want to give you both some word flowers because you are celebrating the 1 year anniversary of your documentary, The Narrative, which we just watched. If you didn't see it, go watch it. And, anybody who sets out to do something that is not easy and can kind of go against the grain, the proverbial grain. It takes a lot to be a pioneer in something, and it takes a lot to be Black women pioneering something
Mm-hmm.
and setting the record straight with receipts and experience and expertise, right? Especially around a topic as sensitive and powerful as our hair. So I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. Thank you for continuing the work in the legacy of Dr. Willie C. Morrow, your dad.
Willie L.
Miss
L.
L, I'm sorry, Willie
That's
L. Thank you.
My
Um,
name starts with a C. That's fine.
yes, okay. So this is important work. And before I delve into some questions that are more related to specific things in the documentary, I want to start off by just asking you, how do you feel at celebrating your first year anniversary of this project that you completed? How are you feeling today about it?
Hmm.
sure you go first. I'm still a little teary eyed. I'm trying to get it together.
Okay. Um, it's unbelievable that the subject has not moved forward,
Mm,
and it is overwhelming to think about just the mountain of of obstacles that we have to overcome.
mhm,
And it is easy to look back and say, and even not just the year, just the last 23 years that we've had the influence of a resurgence of natural hair. And I don't call it natural hair, but just for a lack of us having another term for it that is befitting, um, it's almost like it's another compounded um, calling. It's like another
mm,
addition to it. And um, though I feel good about it, it's you're always gearing up for the next task.
mhm,
And it's good to have someone in it with you
mhm,
to keep you kind of critical, analytic, and just attached to it emotional because
mm,
it is emotional because it's so many levels to it. And why you have compassion of our ignorance,
mm,
it's still the inheritance still requires us. The inheritance is so vast, and so it just keeps me in the keeps me sharp, and I we have to become sharper. So it's I'm ready for it, but the last year I think has been the best teacher of the element of compassion. If I can
mm.
sum it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say for me that the 1 year anniversary, it continues to be reflective of the adage of infinite possibilities. And so our goal at this point is, like Cheryl said, to take it to the next level. And
Mhm.
hopefully we'll get through some of that, reveal some of what the next level
Mhm.
is for Cheryl and I. But I'm just very appreciative of everyone in the chat. Some super shout outs. Adam, Sandra, how much I appreciate you, Naomi. We got Ladreas in the house. I see you,
Mhm.
Andre, Lena, my BFF, Rashida. Miss Clark is in the chat. Um, we also see Miss Eileen. She enjoyed the pictures of your dad, Hair Savant. He's my new friend. I'm going to check him out in Kansas
Mhm.
City. So I'll be checking him out in the summer. He's a cosmetologist, so we're going to do some things together. So yeah, so this is the next level, and this YouTube channel is
Mhm.
definitely one of those next levels.
And that leads me into the next question I had, which is, what is the impact that you want the documentary to have going forward?
I would say the impact is to stop the fake,
Mhm.
the lies,
Mhm.
because the narrative that we're pushing on a lot of these mainstream platforms, they're very jaded and they don't reflect um, the truth. And so I think it's time that we stop playing on the fact that a lot of people aren't informed about, um, a person like Dr. Willie Morrow and his contributions. And
Mhm.
so we need to start coming with the truth. And there's no big secret that all of this is the telling the truth is inspired on a platform right here on YouTube called the Pseudo Killers. So Unc West and Dr. Oya Ma'at and Juju, she was in
Mhm.
the chat, Yolanda. Somebody said, well, why was Sean P being so mean? He was just being funny. So these cats, they really push me to, be bold enough, to approach a person like Cheryl and her dad.
Mhm. In the beginning of the documentary, there was a quote that was repeated, or a phrase that was repeated several times, and I wanted to ask you to define the meaning of we were black, and we lost it." When you say all of our ancestors, we lost something that our ancestors had. What would you refer to that meaning specifically?
Um, well, let me ask Ladosha, why was that
Mhm.
quote so important to you?
I think it's important. It was very important to me because there was a point in time in the United States where black actually meant something. It had a
Mhm.
lot of depth. It had a lot of history. Again, that infinite possibility. Today, it's now um, it's reduced to racism, and
Mm.
that is not what black meant, even though the assignment, came out of the pseudo of race, black, white, and so on and so forth. But to black people, that meant something different. And so
Mhm.
now, but I'm older now, you know what I'm saying? So that could be it as well, out with the old and with the new. But, Cheryl.
Um, th- I think the enormousness of just us as collective, I think sometimes is a blessing and a curse, because
Mhm.
if you don't have the knowledge of what it totally encompasses, we kind of it may be because of our Western education, we just tend to become lazy and want to leave the hardest or emotional parts that are just
Mm.
too deep to understand, because our education does not allow, or the English language does not allow us to really encompass of Afrocentricity. It
Mhm.
it's such an enormous inheritance, and you have to have space. Your lifestyle has to be able to
Mm.
be compatible with it.
Mhm.
And so sometimes in this country, it doesn't allow us the space
Mhm.
to kind of absorb it all because you're ancient and you know things that you don't even know you know and why you know
Mhm.
them. But sometimes the culture around you and the environment just does not allow space for it.
Mhm.
And so we know it's there, but what do we do with it?
Mhm.
That's
I love that answer, and it resonates very much in my heart space because, and I shared this when you all did your Afro Hair Summit earlier this year, and I got to attend one of the events that you had in Cleveland. And you touch on this in the documentary too, the concept of what it means to be Afrocentric, right? And so to me, as someone who has grown up always identifying as an African American young lady girl, but of mixed lineage, look, and having what in our culture is labeled a certain type of hair. This is all my hair out my head, right? Whatever I want to do with my hair sometimes though, if I want to have it straight or if I want to have it wavy,
mhm,
there have been so many opinions
mhm,
attached to what we do with our hair, not only in the outer Western culture, right, but also within our own internal culture. And if we study history, what we will see is that even our own internal um, culture is very diverse. We were not a monolith,
mhm,
right? And so it brings me back to this idea of expanding the definition of what it means to really be black or to be Afrocentric, right? And you said something, Cheryl, in the documentary that was so strong that I would like for you to expand upon it, especially looking back a year later. Or maybe it was in the if it wasn't in the documentary, it was in the podcast episode you all did yesterday. But the point that you made was that the very nature and definition of being Afrocentric means to care,
mhm,
right? And so there was this whole concept where you all were talking about various challenges that are come up now with the natural hair movement, and some people having the perspective that the unbothered kind of look and just letting yourself be free without doing anything to your hair
mhm,
runs against or counter to the concept of Afrocentrism being about care. Can you
mhm,
maybe expand upon that concept a little bit in as we're reflecting back on 1 year of the narrative being out in the world?
mhm. It goes back to what the one of the women, well, Ladosha was sitting down with the Rev Air team,
Mm-hmm.
and how even though in our struggle we took for granted that even though it was limited, the beauty process and the space we had for it, or the space we held for it,
Mm-hmm.
even though it was um, minuscule, yet we have to speak about each other in a way to at least say, well, however small space we held for our well being in regards to beauty, European women as little girls did not get it at all.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even get the minimum. We got at least the minimum because it's cultural. Beauty processing and adoring and beautifying and hygiene and things of that nature is a spiritual well being
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to be outside of that is to look upon one's center in the mirror and say, I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
Afrocentricity, and I understand that in other cultures or environments that the space is allowed or allotted, but we have allowed the racist paradigm to kind of taint just any moments we can do it.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And we get caught in the rigor in the rat race,
Mhm.
but we don't realize that hair is just not hair, pride, and culture. It is part of well-being. I
Yes.
think that that
Right.
is the issue
Mhm.
once you
Right.
start taking those things away or taking them for granted and don't have
Mhm.
the environment, the workspace.
Mhm.
And
Right.
instead of us saying that we were trying to be white because we chose to adjust to the tools within the environment,
Mhm.
we still applied brilliance and
Yes.
genius in even that
Yes.
Yeah.
and built an incredible industry out of it
Mhm.
to be
Absolutely.
able to create separateness, our own communities, our own neighborhoods, so we can have our salon visits are even different, our barbershops
Mhm.
environments are even different.
Mhm.
So whatever it took, and we have to just be nicer and sweeter and more compassionate just to the moments that we did give to it.
Mhm.
Right. We have some questions and some comments in the chat. So
Yeah.
feel free to continue to drop your questions and comments in the chat. So welcome to our post show talk back interview with the illustrious Imani Capri, and she is the number
Mhm.
one, if you see it right there, energy elevation coach. Then we also have my cousin is in the chat, and to your point about saying that we need to have a different conversation, and she's kind of like she's over the whole thing of what is she mixed with, and so that's one of those conversations that Cheryl is talking about that we hear so much of that narrative that it's time to have a different one.
Mhm.
To Cheryl's point, that's just not so abrasive, and where people don't have to hear that. So hopefully, her great niece and great. She doesn't have any children, so I can't say that.
Yeah.
But won't have that as an issue. You know. Thank
Which
you, cousin. Thank you.
and you brought up two things, other things I want to touch on that really stood out to me in the documentary as well. In our conversation here, you spoke about creating space, right? And in part of changing the narrative and creating space, education is a huge component. And I know that part of your mission and movement is to help educate other cosmetologists and beauty experts to be ambassadors of spreading what's accurate, right? And so one thing that stood out to me in the documentary, the young lady who was, I think it said Aveda in the
Mhm.
background when you interviewed her, she
Yes.
talked about the experience of going to beauty school, and the three, I guess, wig heads that she received, none of them had textured hair, and how that immediately set up like this is the parameters in which you are going to be educated and trained, right? So can you speak to um your passion, your movement, your motivation about educating professionals in the field to change the narrative, and also changing maybe the foundation of how cosmetologists are even trained when it comes to being inclusive of textured hair, right? And another fine point I want to add on there, Cheryl, you talked about in the documentary how afro hair was the first human hair. So how damn crazy is it that you could get certified as a beauty expert or a cosmetology expert?
Barbara's too.
Yes, and that not be part of your required training. So I just want to put that out there and ask you all, to speak to that issue and the work that you're doing to change that, and how this documentary, the narrative, fits into that.
Go ahead, Ladosha.
Um, well, that's like our underline. You know how you say what's the undergirth of all of this? Because
Mhm.
Dr. Willie Morrow, again, all of this is really centered around him. He was so pro professional. And of course, that meant pro education. And so to Renee Goddard, who is she's like a global educator for the entire Aveda, you know, educational and styling component. And so to her point of, what's niche for them is like it's real for us. And so we see a state like New York. I sent that to you earlier today, Cheryl. So New York has passed a law that says now in cosmetology school you have to learn about styling. Now it's not and I'll let Cheryl go a little bit further. And people are fussing about that, like, well, that's bad, and that came up in the Afro Hair Summit, where they don't want white people to learn the cultural practices of hairstyling and so on and so forth. These are the things that we have to change. It's beyond hairstyling. I kind of tried to capture that in the documentary because customers themselves are just tired of like what it looked like, how long it is, and people are just sick of that narrative. And only education from the science that we can be able to address what we can do to help customers be able to alter their hair and then of course make money. And so that's really what we're doing. We also That's really our focus in our conversations. And then of course we are working on a bill right here in Ohio to not do what New York is doing by way of just saying style the hair, but I'll let Cheryl take that to another level. And so I know these responses are a little loaded, but we just want you guys to understand that there's another side to cosmetology, what we do, and as well as barbering. That's just above the surface of something that my cousin put, like, what are you mixed? And people don't, they're just over that already. They're tired of that narrative of trying to look white and good hair and bad hair. People don't want to talk about that stuff no more.
And definitely don't want to talk about it amongst us.
Yeah, I mean, it's but there's nobody else talking about anything different. And so Cheryl does a really good job in helping to move that needle into the right direction. So Cheryl, if you could just kind of, I know it's loaded, and but again, feel free, guys, to drop your comments. Thank you, Eileen. That's a powerful statement. Luana, you too. Hey, Valid, I see you in the chat. Cheryl, take it away.
Yeah. I can't make you fall in love with you, your essence, your image, your likeness, until I blow your mind scientifically. If you don't realize that you're the first scientific human being, it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with being first. And when you're first, science is actually imperative that you understand it. You're not going to learn about Afroness because it's first, and you are in a Western world that is last. And when you are on the last genetic totem pole, well, it's not the fact that straightness or whiteness, Europeanness, paleness, or Westernness is bad for our well being or trying to find our way. The problem is that the racist issue is that there's only one, and that person looks like you. And so, how do we finagle and jockey for a place on the scientific conversation, on the scientific arena? While when you're so hell bent on the forces against you, only wants to keep you in the level of technique. They
Come
don't
on.
want to get you into science. And so the forces, and then of course, when black hairstylists then try to move us forward and just say hair is hair, if you are of African descent, by default, you are mixed. You can't get around it because your genes is what you have chromosomes. You are of color. You're a colored electrical person. So you are by default mixed. That's the only reason
Mhm.
why Europeans exist, because you were mixed. You gave the rest of the world so many other colors and textures, but it came from you. So it's not a read or an insult to call a black person or an African mixed. Now you can switch the word to diverse because Africa is the most
Mhm.
diverse continent. So that just means that blue eyes was first on an African and straight hair was on the first on an African. That's all it means. But if we can get together as professionals, as black people, scholars, and like you, the Reiki and the energy and the healers of the world, we
Mhm.
get on one accord with our essence as scientific people, then we would know why we're black, why our genes made dark skin first. We
Mhm.
can have these conversations and we don't have to get mad because it's science. It has nothing to do with racial and racist and
Mhm.
classism. And I think that once that happens, we will have a better understanding.
And can you also thank you both for your responses to that question? I know that that was a loaded question, but I asked those
Yeah, it
kind of
was.
questions.
No,
That
it's
makes the
good. The chat,
conversation
everybody in the chat
interesting.
is enjoying it.
Yes.
And so again, just
Thank you,
what's
Danny.
up, Theo? What's up, Theo? We see you, Danny. That's my crush. How you
Hey,
doing,
what's up,
Danny?
Theo?
Yeah, hey Theo and Luana. She said that when she went natural, she's got some negative comments about her hair. So
Mm.
we just appreciate you guys. Keep those questions and comments coming. So Imani, these are great, great questions.
Yeah, I so can I read one comment and then go to the
Yeah,
next question?
sure,
Okay, so
sure.
Eileen, I'm following on my Facebook feed too to see the comment. So Eileen Thompson says, "We as a people must stop giving others our power to control our hair. We are born with our hair, which comes in many textures. We have to give ourselves permission to embrace how God has designed us. Companies may not want to acknowledge us, but we must educate ourselves and move forward as a community to ensure what we need for ourselves." I thought that was a powerful comment.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to touch on, this was also in the podcast episode you all shared last evening. You're talking about natural hair and seeing how we just came off of that loaded question about education. I also want to ask you to speak to how important it is for the professionals, the hair scientists within our community to educate our community about healthy and proper natural hair care, right? So, I feel very passionate about this topic, but I'm gonna just leave it right there and let y'all respond, and then we'll flow from there.
I I think on a just a very surface level. Of course, I
Mhm.
can't speak for every licensed barber and cosmetologist, but that is our primary job. I think
Mhm.
there's a myth that we don't teach. And I think we talked a little bit about this yesterday on the podcast, and that is that we can't do it on YouTube. And so it looks like if you were to watch YouTube, we would look very what's the obsolete. If you watched YouTube, you would not think that there was a licensed professional in anywhere, not let alone the United States. Well, maybe not
Mhm.
China, but for sure in America, you would definitely be like, I don't think they exist. But the truth of the matter is, we do teach every person when they come in the chair. Now, do they always follow through? That's a whole nother, conversation. Some people, to Crystal's comment, in the documentary, some people have never been taught. Some people misinterpret, what they were taught. So some people were, but they're of free will. Like, well, that's what my mother said, but that's not what I'm going to do. You know, but I would say that that is what we do, and that's one of those narratives that's not true. You hear so much about oh, they don't show up on time, and all those little funny skits. That's real. That is real. But that's kind of like saying, all cops are bad, or the medical community is just trying to, kill you and get your insurance money. There are people who do that stuff. They're just, but for the most part, all of us want to be of service. This is a service industry. So I think some of that is probably more what they call like folklore. It's sensationalism. So we could do better at it. But Cheryl,
I'll be the first one to admit that cosmetology as a whole, and that is separated from what we call black hair care.
Mm-hmm.
Because black hair care has, even though we've had beauty schools and we've been into the industrial complex, but cosmetology has not done a good job it didn't embrace, it lost the era between 1965 and about 1979. And the barbershop and barbers shouldered Afro education. Cosmetology was not prepared to integrate the natural hair of Black women.
Mm.
So Black women integrated back out of cosmetology and went into the barbershop. And so we as professionals who have been doing it maybe 15 to 30 years back, we were entrenched in education. So we do know what that is and how important it is. But the Y2K natural movement from late 1999 to present day
Mm-hmm.
has created an other. They are an other, and
they're the niche. They're the niche.
right, and so they have subgrouped out, and they have in that natural movement is locticians and braiders and that,
Mm-hmm.
and then bloggers, and then YouTube influencers, and DIY, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do understand how it came about. I know the nature of the confusion, but I believe the challenge is now for us to get on a set of Afro truths as
Mm-hmm.
science. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that once we get on those scientific, chemical, biological, anatomical, and once we get on those truths,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just like the medical field, there are a set of truths, right? They have one Gray's Anatomy, one kind of collective thought.
Mm-hmm.
Then they specialize out, right? We need to do the same. And so that's one of those first questions you asked. That is one of the frustrations just
Mm-hmm.
looking at a year back. And I do believe that natural hair care is now prepared to ask the right questions. And I believe that cosmetologists such as myself and Ladosha and her
Mm-hmm.
reference design team and other ones are prepared to get into Afro hair science. And we are prepared to go out into the global community
Mm-hmm.
and allow us to get on those truths from the pen of Dr. Morrow and from the desk and his books and work, so we can get on those set of truths. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that this is the moment. This is the day to that's here.
What if we had to create like the 10 commandments or the 10 Afro hair truths, what would be like two that you would say? Because I saw what y'all were talking about last night with the sister who was talking about water and moisture in the hair. And I'm not a cosmetologist, but baby, I knew. I was like, water's gonna make your hair more dry. So anyway, what would be like two of the Afro truths that you two want to put out there in the world to help become maybe like part of the standard of how we begin changing the narrative about Afro hair?
All
Yeah.
right, Cheryl,
Go
before
ahead.
you answer that, she going to put it
Go
on
ahead,
me.
Ladosha.
We have a directive in
You
the
go
chat
first.
from Sandra, our virtual host. She's asking everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. We see the
Yes.
numbers are going up. So everybody who's coming in, welcome, welcome, welcome. You are watching and you are being a part of our post-show talk back of the documentary, The Narrative. Let the truth be told. So please, y'all, go ahead on and hit that thumbs up button and help change the narrative. So if I could pick two absolute truths when it comes to hair, the first one I would say is number one, there are no two heads of hair that are alike. So, like Cheryl said, that whole thing, it's all hair and we're all the same. And no, stop saying that. It is not, I mean, it's hair and is that the definition, right, Cheryl? The glossary term. So
Uh-huh.
that, yeah, so that much is true. But when as you're looking at some of the comments in the chat, we can see what people are fed up with. So, the comments are reflective that no two heads of hair are alike. And then the other one, because we are our career as barbers and cosmetologists, we do, style or coif the hair. And I would say the other absolute truth is that there is no such thing as carefree hair. So coming to the salon and the barbershop looking for something that's I ain't gotta do or low maintenance or whatever. Yeah, that's like saying you got teeth that you don't have to brush. Like I need some teeth. I don't want to floss them. I don't want to. I just want some. Even dentures. I don't have them. But there's no such thing. So those are my two absolute truths.
Okay.
For sure. Cheryl, what's your two absolute truths?
Okay. I'm talking to professionals right now. Um, that texture is not the way your hair looks. It is not the curl. Texture is the law of absorption. Coil, the curl is akin to coil count. So that is, if we can just understand when we say texture, it is not the shape of the coil or the shape of the hair strand, please, because that just confuses you. And that is what the second part is, that curly hair is dominant. It's a dominant phenotype. And so when you guys talk about water, that is why it has a propensity to move. And shrinkage is not shrinkage. If we can just understand that hair, curly hair, the more curlier it is, the more biospheric it is. So it is going to react to the environment. And so once we get on that page, then we won't create stupid stuff like shrinkage is stupid, frizz
And
is stupid.
4C hair.
It's stupid. So
Stupid.
and it just pulls you further into the realm of ignorance. And so when you start saying things like that, you're just even more confused, and then you're just falling for anything that most people say. So if we can just get those, and that's biology. I just took you into simple biology. And so, and just take curl and texture, take those things out of race. Just take
Please.
them out.
Please.
Right. And those would be the two things.
I need y'all to do some TikTok videos
I'm trying to get Cheryl to
about
up her.
these points.
I'm trying to get Cheryl to up her following so we could, because we were on TikTok, dude. This would be like,
You could do some short little. As Cheryl was talking, I was seeing a TikTok video. 4C is stupid, or like, what'd you say? Fizz. I
right,
can't think of the word.
Frizz.
Frizz. It's the wine. Frizz is stupid, right? That would grab somebody's attention and be like, well, why? Because we believe this, we believe that. But I think in this generation, this younger generation, the attention span
Mm-hmm.
is so short. But yet, people can be educated if you can reach people in the way that their attention
University.
span, yeah, in the format that their attention span will hold or
I would,
resonate with,
I
it
don't think
could
that,
be effective.
but I don't think the attention span is short. It's something that Cheryl taught me about literacy. So I have my two
Mhm.
books, What They Don't Tell You at the Hair Salon, shameless plug, and
Mhm.
Curly Hair Adventures, which is on sale at the Represent Design Team Hair Salon and Amazon and Global Hair Care Shopify. Anywho,
Mhm.
but something that Cheryl taught me about that whole statement about literacy
Mhm.
and the low literacy rates in African American, children. And that is, are the books relevant? So I don't
Mhm.
think that people have short attention span. I think people are tired of hearing the same thing. How many times can you do a twist out? How many times
Mm.
do you tell a person to make a custard and a mustard and a peanut butter and jelly? How many times can you say one pass? People don't want to hear that. And sure, you said it so much better when you said they're just reducing us to a hairstyle. People are ready for the science, and
Yes.
people are saying that, oh, you'll make it too technical. Oh, nobody. No, they're look at the chat. They're
Let me,
ready.
let me, let me just say
Mhm.
this, and I
Mhm.
want to you guys to really understand this. To educate Black children, it is such an high art. Their intelligence is so high
Mhm.
that the rest of the Western world confuses our disinterestedness
Mm.
as attention deficit. No, you're fucking boring.
Mm.
That's
Okay?
I love this mofo right here. That's
Okay, you're
why I
boring.
call her BMF.
Okay? Black
Mhm.
children, you cannot just
Mhm.
do anything. Their
Mhm.
intelligence, they're coming in on the planet from ancient spaces
Mm.
of time,
Mhm.
and you're not going to wow them with no Western crap. You're just not going to do it. And so that is why I already know when I have young Black people, young
Mhm.
people of color, young Puerto Ricans, young Latin people, some people of color, they had their soul has seen it all.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
can't, you gotta blow,
Mhm.
like I would say, you gotta be scientifically committed to blowing their mind, period.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the only way you're gonna get them to shut up and sit and listen to you and give you the ultimate
Yes.
respect, because you gotta blow their mind. And you just
Mhm.
gotta understand, you gotta bring it. The
Mhm.
education of them is just too high. And
Mhm.
so it's that's why you can get their attention. Probably if you mix a little sound with it, a little rhythm and a little sound to it, you can get them. But they're just disinterested. They're disinterested.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you
That's what
speak?
I said. The chat
Mhm.
speaks to that. Thank you,
Yes.
cousin. My cousin Nicole. She's the one that got the chat moving. Thanks, fam. It takes
Yes.
the family to break it through. She just said, we sick of that good hair back. People, they tired of that. Nobody want to hear that no more. They're tired of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they don't want to believe anymore. We're going out of the age of Pisces. They want to know that they know that they know. Tell me
Yes.
something that I don't know, and then when you go tell them something that they don't know, bam, you jaw drop. You got the jaw drop, Black folks. You
And
got a jaw drop.
can I okay, so can I keep it real with something that kind of like aggravates me a little bit, that I want y'all to
Uh-oh. When the
put some
interviewer says it
put
aggravates her, Cheryl, here we go. Get ready, chat. Don't leave now. Hold on. See, here it goes.
Okay, I heard you all talk about this last night and on your podcast episode. And I'm so happy you said it. I'm like, somebody said or started touching on the conversation that we need to have, that everybody seems to be scared of dancing around. And to me, that is that loving who you are and having whatever you define as natural hair does not have to equal looking and being ungroomed or unkept. And I'm gonna just leave it right there. I'm not gonna, because I'm not trying to hurt nobody's feelings. But when we talk about science and bringing the science back, bring the science back into like natural being sexy, not natural looking crazy, and making it, I have to be okay with that. If I'm not okay with it looking like crazy or having a standard, then somehow that's attached to my less blackness. I'm not as black. You understand? So that was my own little personal thing. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but can you please speak to how do we begin to reshape the narrative around natural hair does not have to be equal to ungroomed or unkept?
Well,
Okay, boom. We
well,
need a sound effect.
yeah, we do. I need to get one of those things. Well, when you think about the documentary, right? It's
Yes.
called The Narrative. Let the truth be told, and it's the plight, and
Mhm.
everything in here is the plight. These are the challenges. These are the problems of Afro hair. The four themes that, because it was so broad, we had to just give you four snippets, right?
Mhm.
So we had antics, right? We had myths, right? And then we had preservation via Dr. Willie Morrow. Then, of course, we had moving forward. And so when you think about something like unkempt hair, it's the lack of information and education in those four themes of the documentary. The
Mhm.
antics, those are those behavioral practices. I mean, that's par for the course when people don't know. They
Mhm.
don't know. We're going to talk about that on Monday, so I don't want to go too far into it. The myths, when people are unkempt, there's a myth that, like you said, unkempt is black. And I got to say it again. She got the chat started with the whole thing, mixed hair and all this other. All of this is what people are tired of, and then
Mhm.
preservation around the education, like Dr. Willie Morrow did. He already did all this stuff, this Crown Act. We already did it. But we have to
Mhm.
preserve and know that he did it so that we can move the needle to get to the sciences. Per Danny, thank you, Danny, for you say bring on the science, and then that's just it.
Mhm.
Like Danny said, we got to move forward. We have to move forward, and so that's my take on the whole unkempt hair. Is it ties right into the themes, the four themes of the documentary.
Um, Let me say this. There is a portion of the conversation that we're not talking about. So I'm let me give you credence,
Mhm.
Imani. The reason why that um, is not a conversation as much in the Western world because the Eastern, the Afrocentric teachings is one word, well, maybe two. One is elegance.
Mhm.
And when you live in a patriarchal, egotistical world,
Mhm.
um, we don't understand the power of elegance.
Mhm.
And it is akin to that space again. We don't have time. The male essence is not taught how to be elegant. Um, there, when you see most males in Afrocentric cultures, they are quite elegant. And the power of
Mhm.
the elegance, the power of taking time to groom oneself, unfortunately, in Western culture, is dovetails into femininity.
Mhm.
That does not exist in the Afrocentric paradigm. And so once it's almost like the way we dealt with it, we struggle with it. Um, more Black alpha types need to enter into cosmetology to show them
Mhm.
that they're the strong, the more power and strength you have, the more elegance is required.
Mm.
And so we even at I remember going to the Bronner Brother maybe 30 years ago, 35 years ago when I was about not from 9 till about 25. Those Black folks were so pretty. It
Mm.
would just take your breath away.
Mhm.
And so, and we don't understand that Karl Lagerfeld used to came to New York he was a friend of James Harris, and he came in and he would say, people treat you how you look. And whatever
Mhm.
treatment you want in return, make sure you dress accordingly. If you want to be dressed, if you want to be treated prestigious, even Reverend Ike with
You can't lose with the stuff I use.
that's right. So we need to also get back to the art of elegance. And most
Mhm.
African designers, like Oswald Boateng,
Mm.
just the power of an elegant man and an elegant woman. Those are such power statements. When I want to um, probably gear my conversation when I go to a meeting, I know that the way I dress is going to do half the talking for me.
Mhm.
And so we just had in cosmetology, we just, and even in the salon, we dressed it up because that is how we're going to kind of exert our authority,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so we do have to get back to that. And let me just say this: I think that there is a struggle for our and I'm talking about men and women.
Mhm.
It's a struggle to get our egos in the room because we have so many obstacles. And
Mm.
so we think naturalness is akin to being wild and unkempt. But we saw in the
Don't
black,
forget free,
right,
free, and
right,
free.
right, absolutely. And then you can see in the black, one of the elements we loved in the film, both Black Panthers,
Mhm.
we loved how elegant just to see the elegance of blackness on a
Yes.
screen, even though
Mhm.
they were from, the heart of Uganda, they were so fabulously dressed.
Mhm.
And so, and that is actually our true history. We're
All
very
right.
elegant, soft people.
Mhm.
All right. So with that being said, we need you guys to take a moment out and do this right here, right now, or else Sandra gonna get y'all. All
Mhm.
right, we're wrapping up to an hour, so we're gonna rock it down maybe about 10 more minutes. And don't forget, partner with us and hit that like button. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel. We're gonna be back on Monday with some pretty cool stuff. So, Amani, take it away.
Eh,
We're gonna take that conversation that Cheryl, the question that
Mhm.
Amani asked about the unbothered, unkempt hair. Is it African? Is it not? We'll be talking about that on Monday. So, Amani, take it away.
I think there are really kind of two other areas I wanted to touch on. One, we don't have enough time, but maybe I'll just throw it out there and y'all can do another episode on
Okay.
it. And that is Cheryl, I loved comments you made between the documentary and also the episode you all did last night about the economy of black hair, right? And how we invented industry that provided economy, and
mhm,
how we need to be vigilant and mindful when narratives are created that start trying to steer us out of the economy of our own hair, right?
mhm.
So that I know is deeper than what 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but I would love to, or even if y'all came on my show in a future episode and we talked about that, I think that's a whole sequel documentary. Which is there going to be a sequel to
Yeah.
on there?
We yes, we
Ooh,
have talked about it.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a major work, but yeah, we have definitely been tinkering around with it. But we had some other things that came up, but for sure, and
Okay.
Absolutely.
that definitely would that would be included. We didn't get a chance to get to it because, like we said, even doing the documentary, I
Mhm.
was I was afraid because it was so large. I didn't know how to, how they say, how do you eat an elephant? And I
Mhm.
think our editor, Daniel T. Hurd, did a wonderful job,
Mhm.
one bite at a time. So he broke
Yes.
it down into four parts because it was so large. We had so much footage.
Mhm.
We still have a lot of footage that we could use. So
Mhm.
yes. So okay. So your next question.
I even welcome actually, and I think we also talked about this, Ladosha, probably just doing a actually real taped um, series of interviews, because
Mhm.
sometimes we're always so rushed,
Mhm.
in every, and so maybe we can even talk about even doing that with you, Imani. I think it would be
I would listen. I would love to
All
because
right. So
part
we
of part of the thing that I want to inject in here, especially as an independent media maven in the making, okay, he who owns the means of production controls the narrative. I mean, for real.
that,
So and when you think about, I
come
know
on.
that in the Afro Hair Summit, you shared
Mhm.
more about your father's history and other businesses that was started, like your paper and things like that. I think one of the most powerful things that we can do as a people in changing the narrative is to really begin reclaiming ownership of the economy. If you look at our music, if you look at whatever, our hair, our music, I saw them clips y'all had from the folks in China too. Okay? But if you have the patent, if you have the copyright, if you're producing the products, right? Then
I
you
understand.
benefit. You benefit. So I think
uh,
that
we
that's
have well, we have you on record. Everybody here, this is in
yeah.
perpetuity, and so we're
Mhm.
going to hold you to that. We'll set up a
Let's
meeting,
go.
and we'll see how we can do that. So
Yeah.
you have one more question for us
Yep.
before we
My
wrap this
my
up?
last question
And if
is
if anybody has any questions in the chat
Mhm.
for Cheryl and myself before we wrap up, feel free to do that. Okay.
my last question for you is, what comes to mind when you hear these words together? The narrative, self-love, and legacy.
Oh God.
You said what comes to mind
Mhm.
when we hear the narrative, self
Self-love and legacy.
and legacy.
Mhm.
Um, I'm definitely going to have to say Dr. Willie and my parents. Um, for sure. Our parents um, they told us a narrative, but, you know, um, but because it wasn't taught in the schools, it was like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we definitely got a good backdrop. I know for me, um, I grew up in a very loving family
Mhm.
on both sides, and so and all those three themes, they just so those are the first two words I could say. My parents, my grandparents, and Dr. Willie Morrow.
Hmm. I'm gonna be very honest with you.
Mhm.
Um, that is probably, I have never put those three together,
Mm.
and so, but I will say, probably most of all, probably just uh, when when you see, and I want all of us to really try to understand what I'm saying. When you see a man that has been formidable, and I'm talking about literally Superman, his whole entire life,
Mhm.
um, the whole point, hopefully, um, the greatest thing that we probably can do in with our field, media, fashion, beauty, all of the whole nine, is to make sure that we don't run out of time,
Mm,
that we stay very diligent while we have the best energy,
mm, mhm,
to be able to have enough time to give the best of us, not
mhm,
wait until we're either
mm,
compromised.
mhm,
And Mr. Morrow was in his power cycle for only a short time. He stretched it
mhm,
so long, but he was able to grow old and in his frailness be able to rely on me.
mm, mhm,
But cosmetology is such a rich and prosperous and enormous wealth that it allows us to be able to give ourselves while we are still about 60. And for us to
mm,
understand that those are the best years of us. And while we are still here, to be able to communicate. So if we need to retire and go off into the sunset, we can do it with dignity and
mhm,
not struggle. And so we have to tell our stories correctly so we can communicate
mhm,
correctly. So I can tell you where the bodies are buried, and I can tell you where the landmines are. And then I can still stand up straight and sit up straight and watch you run with what
mm,
inheritance that I give you. And I think that this in this industry, it allows us to do it very quickly, and it
mhm,
allows us to get out with the best set of health and enriched, and then we
mhm.
can pass it on. And so that's what makes me think about that.
Wow.
Thank you.
Powerful, powerful, powerful.
Mhm.
Any last words for us, Imani?
Yes, you were reading my mind. I was going to share with you just what I reflect upon with those three words and watching the beautiful work with the narrative that you both have put into the world. So when I look at and think of the narrative, self love and legacy, I think about how necessary and timely this work is, this conversation is, when we are at a time in our country where there's literally legislation trying to erase our history. I think about how vital the role of a cosmetologist is in our community,
Mhm.
because for some of us who may not be able to afford therapy,
Mm,
we get our therapy and self-love and a little bit of pampering when we go sit in that cosmetology chair.
And
Those are,
barbering, and
yeah,
barbering.
and barber. I know from a
same thing.
cosmetologist, but same thing, right?
Same.
We
Mhm.
find community there.
Mm,
And so to me, this is much deeper than hair. And we know that,
yes, we.
and then when we think about legacy, the word that kept coming to me was blueprint.
Mhm.
Your father's work
Nice.
created a blueprint,
Mhm.
right? The work that you're doing is creating a blueprint, right? The work that I'm doing
Mhm.
is a blueprint. And for anybody who sees this interview or this conversation, I would like to encourage all of us to think about how we are embodying self love, legacy, and what narrative we are leaving as a blueprint for others, right? And especially within
Great, great.
our community. So I'm really honored that you asked me to be a part of this. Thank you. And congratulations again. Toast. Where's the camera? Cheers.
There it is.
And
Cheers.
happy first 1 year anniversary and many,
Thank
many
you.
more to come. And I'm kicking it off to you, Ladosha.
All right, all right. Luana, we see your question in the chat. She says, "Why are the Asians trying to copy our hair?" We're going to talk about that when we talk about telling our stories on Thursday. Right here. We'll be back at 10 o'clock p.m. EST and 7 o'clock p.m. PST. So, Lawana, come on back on Thursday, and then that we'll be able to answer your question as we are wrapping up the interview. Thank you guys so much for celebrating 1 year of the narrative. And we appreciate you all so very much. Don't forget, please go over and hit the thumbs up button um, on the documentary. Make sure you do that. That will mean a lot to Cheryl, myself, and Dr. Willie Morrow. And so you all are wonderful. And you know what we say when we're signing out again? We're always talking about a whole lot of peace, a whole lot of love, and for sure a whole lot of hair. But if you ain't got it, don't want it, can't stand it, can't grow it, hell, you're planning on cutting it off. We say, don't worry about it. Ain't that right, cousin Nicole? Don't worry about it, Sandra said, because all of that is beautiful too. And so are you. And Imani will be talking to you.
Yes, let's go. I love y'all. Let's
All
go.
right. We love you too. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you so much. Good night, Danny.